You've done all the work, all the prep, the syllabus, the lectures, the presentations, the group discussions, the group projects. You've given exams, you've graded papers, you've kept office hours. You've done everything that's been asked of you so far this semester as an adjunct instructor. So how can you end the semester well? How can you end the semester in a way that you'll get invited back? Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is The Do-Over Show, and I have over 20 years of experience teaching as an adjunct in 8 or 9 different colleges, universities, and grad schools. And I can tell you something, a little brag, in over 20 years of my teaching as an adjunct, I have never, as in 0 times, had to fail a student in any of the classes that I've taught. 0, none. I told that to a friend the other day, and they said, "Oh, that's because you have no standards. You compromise. You give up too easily." I said, yes, I'm an adjunct. I'm hired to solve a problem for the school, and I want to do it successfully. I want to teach, and I want to I want to devote myself to teaching so that the student succeeds. Who am I working for if I'm not working to make the student successful? Okay, so have I not been asked back? Yes, at 2 different locations. One, because the school decided they were going to cut all adjuncts who weren't graduates of the school, a professional program. The other was a professional program that decided that they would need to fill in spaces. Even got me to teach 3 courses one semester, pretty much a full-time load in most grad programs, for a prof that they had to bounce because, well, you know, that person did something they shouldn't have done. So I made it happen for them. And then the very next semester, they said, by the way, we don't have a course for you now because we filled that position. So yeah, it doesn't guarantee that you'll get asked back because that's what it means to be an adjunct. You're a temporary, part-time, contract, seasonal worker. You might as well mow lawns or plow snow because that's the role you play. Unless you embrace this, and here's something that's made all the difference for me, and I want to share the 3 big things that I do to finish each and every semester well in those 40 different semesters of teaching as an adjunct. Well, that's a long time. The first one is pretty basic, and that is don't wait till the last minute to address missing assignments, missing attentiveness. Yeah, look at people who aren't paying attention to you and say, oh, I've got to go after them. I've got to talk to them, not scold them, but I've got to ask, hey, how are you doing? Are you following along? Is there something that we're missing? Is there something that we covered that you're not grasping? Can I help you find out how you can get more out of this course? Yes, you have to take the initiative, and you have to take the initiative much earlier than a student will have the self-awareness to say, oh crap, it's too late. If I don't do well, I'm going to fail this course. You see, like a good manager, a good adjunct believes that they work for the students, not just for the university or college. They actually work for the students to bring about their success. And that means that depending on the students you get for your course, whether it's a required course or a course for majors, you're going to have a different level of intensity. Now, I've wound up teaching a lot of courses that are required courses in the Gen Ed curriculum, which means people are there because they have to be there. Not because they want to be there or they chose that course as part of their major. I've taught courses for majors. They're a completely different group of people, highly motivated and invested in the subject. And they pick the course because they want that for their living or career or their major or their minor. But for the Gen Ed courses, it's a lot more work to engage people who aren't really sure that they should be there or want to be there, but they know they have to be there.
This is so boring!
I start off each semester with a simple statement. I say, you're here because you have to be here to fulfill a requirement for the Gen Ed curriculum. I'm here because I love teaching and I'm here for the money. So let's find out a way to make this work. That kind of honesty, freshness, that kind of reality check really resonates with students because they want to know why you're doing this.
Is this my imagination, or has my class grown considerably? Well, by no stretch of my imagination do I believe you've all come here to hear me lecture.
It's not a game to them. They want to succeed. They just don't know how to succeed. Heck, they don't even know what the course is or why it's required. And so instead of trying to prove to them how wonderful the world would be if everybody just took this one course, this one valuable course, and it would just change everything, and everything would be peace and flowers and prosperity, Yeah, that doesn't happen. And that's the way most professors, insecure ones, start their class, trying to prove to the students how valuable and how necessary their class is. I teach required courses with the statement, look, you have to be here. I'm here for the money and because I enjoy teaching, so let's find ways to make this work. And I try to show them in ordinary ways how they'll be able to use the course and how it will benefit them, not only in life 20 years from now, but in their other coursework, in how they read books and how they study and how they prepare, and how other subjects and what their majors are, and how it is impacted by the subject that they're required to take in this course. And that takes effort. That means I have to invest a little bit more, pay myself a little bit less because I have to invest more time in making that course a success for each of the students. Oh, and by the way, here's the other thing. It means if they're just not engaging, if they're not there, if they maybe miss a class or two, or if they're just drifting off or watching ESPN on their computer rather than paying attention, then I approach them individually, not breaking up class, but before class, during breaks, after class, and I say, hey, how are you doing? Steve, what's the work like? Are you coming along on that assignment? Did you get a chance to look at that book we talked about? And engage them in front of everyone else in the class, but do it personally. That adds a dimension of peer or social pressure to that interaction. And it gives people a good sense that there is a level of accountability. Even if they're not being addressed, but they hear Steve is being addressed, it will make an impact on them. And they will get the message if they're tuned in at all. The second important thing I do to make sure that the class ends successfully, as successfully as I thought it began, and that is I teach the class like it is a real life experience, not the artificial world of higher education. Yes, when you interact with students on this level and you teach them and you interact with them like it's the real world, you will get taken advantage of. They will lie to you. It's ordinary. It happens in life. You know in your work it happens every single day. Don't expect more of them than you do of adults with 20 years of a career experience.
Why the extra step?
But that means we can only hold them accountable for the course assignments that are required and that we make explicit in the syllabus. We can't hold them accountable for failing life in general or for grave moral failures. In fact, that means building in opportunities where I take those things away. For example, in my courses, I take away the opportunity of plagiarism and cheating. Yes, I make it literally impossible. For one assignment, I make them pick a book to read and do an interaction and read with them, and I require them to use resources, and I require them to use Wikipedia, because every single person who looks up any single topic in the world today, when they Google it, the very first hit will be Wikipedia. Why are we so paranoid and afraid? Are we going to lose our jobs to Wikipedia? No. What I do is I make it nearly impossible for people to plagiarize or to cheat. That also means that I build into my courses evaluations or exams that are take-home, open book, open note, that require them to use the material that we are sharing in class, not from rote memorization, but as a research element of the course. So I teach exams as though they were applied research projects. That's the way real life is. That's the way they're going to have to work in their working career. That's the way you work in your career. Your boss is not going to ask you on Monday morning when you show up for work bleary-eyed with a cup of coffee in your hand, okay, put down the coffee, get out a blank piece of paper and a pencil, number 2 pencil, because it's time for a pop quiz. Real life doesn't happen that way. And by the way, if you show up for a boss like that, you need another job. Hey, and even if your course is one of the STEM courses that uses standardized testing or external testing or a general test that's administered by an outside body, besides teaching for the test, actually go through the testing experience in class, work through it as a project, and present material not separate from an exam, but how the material will appear on an exam. And that is that you can, I don't think that STEM is an excuse. The need to avoid the binge and purge approach to higher education and testing, like we treat it like a bulimia or eating disorder, where we cram the night before and we spew it all back up on the next day in an exam. There is really no excuse for this if you are a good on top of it teacher. And that means that you can not just teach for the exam, but you can learn to teach the material as it applies to the testing for the exam. Because you will be held accountable as a teacher, especially as an adjunct, if your students aren't able to pass standardized exams, correct? Yes, that's correct. So use the experience of teaching the content connected with the process of how it will appear on an exam. It's not giving them the questions, it's just teaching them how the material will be evaluated. And knowing how it's important to them is much more important than figuring out the great whys of its importance to them. And that brings me to the third thing I've learned about finishing semesters well as an adjunct, and that is try to avoid, if at all possible, under all circumstances, making the final examination a life or death experience.
Bye, Felicia.
Don't build it in to be so much of the grade that the entire 15 or 16 weeks that you've invested in them and in working together somehow becomes meaningless or tested on the basis of 1-2 hour testing period where they have to just spew things back up that you said 15 or 16 weeks ago. Heck, they can't remember things 15 or 16 minutes ago. That's not how they process, or real life, whether they're 18 or whether they're 68. It's not how we process information. Learning that means that we have to make the course itself built on something, and that is to build in an evaluative process which doesn't rely just on a final exam, but relies on, so that they know going into the test, not only what they need to pass, but what they need for a certain grade or to improve their grade, to give them a chance to actually work towards something. If you build a test as the final, all-encompassing, everything is weighted by this test, then they're going to go for a pass-fail approach to the course. And they're just going to try to get that minimum, that baseline. There will be a couple who exceed that, but there are the unusual ones. Everybody's just going to go for a pass-fail. But if you want to teach better, if you want to be known as someone who actually invests in student life, then give them something to shoot for. Give them something to reach for. And tell them, look, you've got a B now. We've got the final exam. It's worth 20% of your grade. So let's get you to that point where maybe you can get an A in this course. What's it going to take? How are we going to make it happen? And by the way, walk through it together in a class. Say, if you've got a C now, this is what you'll need to get a B on the final. Not just a score, but the kind of information that you'll need to have a grasp of. If you've got a B, here's how you can get an A. Show them how they can succeed and do whatever you can to avoid making the final exam a life or death experience. When we're hired as adjuncts, we're hired to solve the department chair's problems. The department chair didn't cut the budget line for full-time professors. A board of trustees that have determined, yes, they're going to have 50, 60% of the people teaching courses being adjuncts. Congratulations, you've got a part-time job. The department chair's problem is that they want a course taught successfully. They want students to succeed. They're not the problem. Maybe they should complain, maybe they should protest, maybe they should say no, but they're not going to put their jobs on the line for you, who they don't know, and there's a surplus of us. So instead, don't punish the students because you don't like the way adjuncts are treated in today's world. Instead, teach to solve the department chair's problem, and that is, the department chair needs a section covered, they need a course, and they need it taught successfully. That is your goal. Student success, that's what you're teaching for, student success, because that will solve the problem of the department chair, and that will get you invited back to teach again as an adjunct. But let's make sure we don't lose sight of why we're in a classroom with that group of 20, 40, 60 students. We're trying to get all of them to succeed, all of them to pass, all of them to reach for better things in their life. That means that we can't be too proud. We have to realize what our role is in higher education. Can't be too proud and wear it as a badge of honor when we fail somebody. Oh, I had to fail that person. Why? Because they didn't meet my high standards. Who are you? You're not a tenured professor. You don't have a known name in the field. You're lucky to be teaching in the world the way it is today. Cash your check, go home, and make sure that the people that you're responsible to teach are actually learning the best they can and the best you can in that experience. Get over yourself. Get over ourselves as adjuncts. We're not going to change the world or save the world, but we can give students the quality of experience that we know is possible in higher education. You see, that's why we're there. To solve the department chair's problems, to make student success possible, and to get a little money, and to use our education and our experience, our real life experience, our academic experience, in ways that enrich the lives of others and enrich our lives in turn. Hey, and thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. I really appreciate it, and please, while you're here, could you tap the like button, because it really helps others see the videos. And while you're down there, how about you subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks.